The Mafia Boss raised his glass, so the waitress knocked it onto the white napkin. Act 1, The Stain Before the Toast. Livia Dane saw the wrong glass before the Mafia Boss lifted it. It was not the tallest glass on the table, not the most expensive, and not the one that caught the chandelier light in clean little blades. It was the glass at Adrian Bellandi's right hand, half filled with a deep amber digestif that had been poured from a sealed bottle, carried on a silver tray, and watched by 6 men who believed watching was the same as noticing. Livia knew better. Watching was what rich guests did while pretending they were not afraid. Noticing was work. She stood near the service line of the Vesper room with a folded white napkin over her left forearm, her black waitress jacket buttoned neatly, her dark blonde hair pinned back, and a tray of espresso cups balanced against her hip. 32 years old, tired in the feet, steady in the hands, she had worked private dining long enough to know that danger rarely entered a room shouting. More often, it arrived as a changed seat, a shifted fork, a glass that had moved 2 inches while everyone looked at the man with the name. Adrian Bellandi sat at the head of the long walnut table. He was 43, clean-shaven, dark-haired, and dressed in a black 3-piece suit under a long black overcoat that he had not bothered to remove. His signet ring rested against the stem of the glass. 2 bodyguards stood behind him, one near the door, one near the wall of wine cabinets. No one in the Vesper room mistook him for a businessman. Businessmen wanted attention. Adrian had the terrible calm of a man attention had learned to fear. The private dinner had been described to the staff as a donor toast. Livia had known that was a lie before the first course. Donor dinners had speeches, soft laughter, and men pretending their money had clean edges. This dinner had men who stopped talking when the kitchen door opened, women who smiled without eating, and a polished consultant named Victor Salvi who kept checking the small camera his assistant had set on a tripod by the fireplace. The camera had been explained as archival documentation for the foundation. Livia did not like that phrase. People used words like archival when they wanted a record without admitting they hoped for evidence. Toast in 2 minutes, Marlowe whispered beside her. Marlowe Vale, the banquet captain, smelled of mint gum and stress. His collar was too tight, his smile too fast, and his hands too eager to touch things that did not need touching. I know, Livia said. You are on water only after the toast. No interruptions. I know. And do not hover near Mr. Bellandi. That made her look at him. I do not hover. You watch. That is the job. Tonight the job is service. Service includes watching. Marlowe's mouth thinned. Tonight it includes obedience. Livia turned away before her face said more than her paycheck could afford. She did not dislike orders when they made sense. A dining room survived because everyone knew where to stand, when to move, and how to turn attention away from small disasters. But Marlowe had spent the entire night less concerned with service than with preventing staff from seeing too much. The first sign had been the folded white napkins. Every place setting in the room used ivory linen except Adrian's. His napkin was white. Not winter white, not cream, but surgical, bright, and used white, folded into a sharp rectangle on the right side of his plate. Livia had asked why during setup, and Marlowe had told her the guest preferred it. No guest at this level preferred one mismatched napkin. The second sign had been the glass. Adrian's digestive glass had been placed at 11 o'clock, where a server could reach it easily from behind his left shoulder. 5 minutes ago, when Victor Salvi began thanking everyone for their loyalty to the new civic fund, the glass had shifted to Adrian's right hand. The move was slight enough that anyone seated at the table would miss it. Livia had not missed it. The third sign was the smell. Bitter almond, but not the warm dessert scent of amaretto. This was sharper, thinner, wrong at the rim of a glass that should have smelled of oak and orange peel. Not enough to fill the room. Not enough for a man giving a speech to notice over polished wood, perfume, and expensive cologne. Enough for a waitress who had washed bar mats, polished glasses, and once caught a bartender rinsing old tumblers with industrial cleaner because he thought clear meant clean. Victor stood at the far end of the table. To trust, he said, lifting his own glass. Livia felt the room lean toward Adrian. Adrian did not hurry. He never had to. He looked from Victor to the guests, from the guests to the camera near the fireplace, then lowered his gaze to the glass beside his hand. Marlowe stepped closer to Livia. Do not move. That was the fourth sign. Adrian's fingers closed around the stem. Livia moved. She crossed the service line before Marlowe could grab her sleeve, before Enzo Bellandi's eyes sharpened, before anyone in the room understood that a waitress had just broken the invisible wall around the head of the table. Sir, she said. Adrian looked up. His eyes were dark gray, cold enough to stop most people from finishing a sentence. Livia did not finish one. She knocked the glass out of his hand. The digestive struck the white napkin with a wet, bright slap. Amber liquid spread across the fabric, then darkened at the edge where the rim had touched it, a thin bitter brown ring blooming against the clean linen. The glass rolled once, stopped against Adrian's plate, and made a small sound that seemed louder than a dropped tray because everyone expected violence and got linen instead. No one moved. Then everyone moved. Enzo stepped toward Livia. Marlowe cursed. A woman at the table gasped. Victor's assistant jerked toward the camera. Adrian's other bodyguard reached inside his jacket, and 3 donors shoved their chairs back as if distance could make them innocent. Livia lifted both hands, palms visible. "Hands out of jackets," she said. The bodyguard stared at her. "This is a dining room," she continued, voice steady. "If anyone reaches for anything, the entire table goes over." For one impossible second, the Vesper room obeyed the waitress. Adrian Bellandi looked at the stain. Not at his wet cuff. Not at the gasping guests. Not at the bodyguards who were waiting for permission to turn her life into a warning. He looked at the white napkin and the dark ring spreading from the place where the glass rim had landed. Then he looked at Livia. "Explain," he said. Marlowe recovered first. "Mr. Bellandi, I apologize. She is temporary staff, and she has no authority to approach your table." "She has my attention," Adrian said. The words cut Marlowe off so cleanly that his mouth remained open after his voice stopped. Livia lowered her hand slowly. "Do not smell the glass yet." Enzo's stare could have cracked tile. "You knocked a glass from his hand and now you are giving instructions?" "Yes. You have 3 seconds to remember fear." "I remember plenty. I am still right." Adrian's gaze remained on her face. "Why should I not smell it?" "Because if I am wrong, you lose nothing but a toast. If I am right, the rim was treated, and your first breath should not be with your face over it." Victor gave a smooth little laugh. "Treated? This is absurd. The bottle was sealed." "I did not say the bottle." Victor's smile thinned. Adrian noticed. Livia pointed to the napkin without touching it. "The liquid is clean in the center. The line at the edge came from the rim. That glass was moved after service." Marlowe stepped in front of her. "This is speculation." "Then move," Livia said, "and let the napkin speculate where everyone can see it." Someone at the table made a sound that might have been a laugh and might have been fear trying to escape in the wrong direction. Adrian lifted one finger. Marlowe stepped back. "Bring a clean glass," Adrian said. Marlowe turned toward the sideboard. "Not him," Livia said. The room stilled again. Adrian's voice stayed quiet. "Who? Me? You just struck my hand. And saved you from using it badly." Enzo muttered something in Italian. Adrian did not look away from Livia. "Bring it." She went to the sideboard, selected a new glass from the sealed rack, and held it by the base. She placed it on a fresh white napkin before him, then stepped back. "Pour from the same bottle," Victor said. "End this nonsense." "No," Livia said. Victor's eyes hardened. "Are you managing the room now?" Livia looked at Adrian. "No. He is. I am telling him the room is not clean enough for a toast." Adrian sat very still. His power had a shape Livia recognized from dangerous rooms. It was not only the guards or the money or the fear people carried into his name. It was the expectation that nobody would interrupt his hand once he decided to lift it. She had interrupted it. And he had not punished her. Not yet. "Everyone step back from the table," Adrian said. Victor's smile vanished. "Adrian, surely you are not taking this performance seriously." "I said step back." The guests obeyed. Chairs scraped. Silk whispered. The camera kept recording until Enzo crossed the room and turned it toward the wall. Victor's assistant protested. "That is foundation property." Enzo smiled without warmth. "It is still breathing." Livia bent over the stained napkin, careful not to touch the wet center. The brown ring had settled into the linen like a bruise that did not belong to a body. She could feel Adrian watching her hands. "What did you see?" he asked. "Your glass moved." "When?" "During Mr. Salvi's introduction. It was at 11 o'clock. Then it was at your right hand." "Who moved it?" "I saw Marlowe pass behind your chair with the espresso tray. I did not see his hand touch the glass." Marlowe's face went pale under the chandelier. "Convenient," Victor said. "You accuse without seeing." Livia turned. "No. I report what I saw and what I did not see. That is the difference between service and gossip." Adrian's mouth moved slightly, not a smile, not yet. "And the smell?" he asked. "Bitter at the rim. Thin. Not the drink." "You are certain?" Certain enough to hit your hand in front of 20 witnesses. The silence that followed had weight. Adrian looked down at his wet cuff. The digestive had spotted the white shirt beneath his jacket. A lesser man would have focused on the insult. A crueler man would have made her apologize before asking whether she was right. Adrian Bellandi looked at the stain again. "Get me another white napkin," he said. Livia did. Act 2, what service sees? The second napkin proved the first was not an accident. Livia set a clean white square beside the stained one, then used silver tongs from the lemon tray to lift the fallen glass by its base. She did not touch the rim. She did not hurry, because rushing made people think emotion had replaced method, and men in rooms like this loved to dismiss a woman once they could call her emotional. She pressed the rim lightly against the clean napkin. A faint brown crescent appeared. Not as dark as the first, but enough. The Vesper room inhaled. Victor spoke before anyone else could. "That proves nothing. Residue from the drink." "The drink did not touch this part," Livia said. "You are a waitress." "Yes. Not a chemist." "No. Then perhaps stop speaking beyond your expertise." Livia looked at the two napkins, then at him. "My expertise is what belongs on a table. That does not." Adrian's fingers rested on the edge of the table. His signet ring glinted against the dark wood. "What would it have done?" Livia chose her words carefully. "I do not know." Marlowe seized on that. "Exactly. I know what it was meant to look like," she said. Adrian's eyes sharpened. She nodded toward the camera by the fireplace, now facing the wall. "A toast. You lift the glass. The room watches. You taste something wrong, cough, spit, maybe lose your temper because everyone sees. The footage becomes a story before the last plate leaves the kitchen." Victor's face became politely blank. Too blank. Adrian saw it too. "A story," he said. "A powerful man cannot control his own toast," Livia said. "A leader looks unwell. A donor dinner becomes proof that he is unstable. Nobody needs to hurt you badly if they only need the room to doubt you." Enzo's expression changed. He understood that language better than linen. Victor laughed again, but this time the sound came late. "This is theatrical paranoia." "Then why was the camera already pointed at him before the toast?" Livia asked. "For the Foundation archive. Archives do not need reaction shots." The assistant near the fireplace swallowed. Adrian turned his head a little. "What is your name?" "Livia Dane." "How long have you worked here?" "At the Vesper room, 8 months. In private dining, 14 years. "And the captain?" Marlowe stiffened. 6 years, Livia said. "For in this room. Has he ever placed a white napkin at only one setting?" "Not when I was working." Marlowe's voice cracked. "Mr. Bellandi, she has had issues with authority since she arrived. There are written complaints." "From whom?" Livia asked. He glared at her. "From whom?" Adrian repeated. Marlowe adjusted his collar. "Guests who felt she was brusque. Guests who put hands on servers," Livia said. "Guests who called busboys by numbers. Guests who asked me to smile after changing the tip line to 0. Victor sat down slowly, as if lowering himself could make him less involved. Adrian noticed that too. "Livia," he said. Her name in his voice did not sound like it belonged to him. That mattered more than it should have. "Yes? If this were your room, what would you do next?" Marlowe gave a harsh breath. "Her room?" Livia ignored him, though her pulse had moved into her throat. Powerful men often asked working women questions as traps. They wanted the pleasure of seeing you reach beyond your station, so they could remind you where the floor was. Adrian's question did not feel like that. It felt worse, because he seemed prepared to hear the answer. "I would stop the toast," she said. "Done. I would take every glass from your side of the table and every napkin that came from that stack." "Do it." "I would keep the camera turned away until you decide whether it records anything else." "Enzo." "Already done," Enzo said. "I would keep all staff in the room until we know who touched the service line, but I would not let your guards question them alone." Enzo looked offended. Livia continued. "Servers say anything when frightened men with guns ask questions. That does not make the answer clean." Adrian studied her. "You object to my guards." "I object to fear pretending to be evidence." For a moment, the room held its breath around the sentence. Then Adrian said, "Fair." Livia felt the word settle under her ribs. Not praise. Not softness. Acknowledgement. It was more dangerous than either. The next 10 minutes unfolded like a service reset after a disaster. Livia collected napkins with tongs and placed them in clean bread baskets lined with parchment. She labeled nothing with dramatic tape or improvised warnings because labels made guests panic, and panic contaminated memory. She asked Aldo, the junior server, to stand by the door and write down the names of everyone who left the room. She told the kitchen not to send dessert. She told Marlo to stop touching the water pitchers. He did not like that. "You cannot order me around," he hissed near the service station. "Then stop creating work. You think he will protect you because you played brave? I think the napkin is still brown whether he likes me or not. You have no idea what you interrupted." That made her turn. Marlo realized his mistake half a second too late. So did Adrian. He had crossed the room without making a sound. His bodyguards remained near the table, which somehow made his approach more dangerous, not less. He stopped beside Livia, close enough that Marlo's face changed. "What did she interrupt?" Adrian asked. Marlo tried to recover. "The toast. Be precise." "The evening." Again. Marlo looked at Victor. Victor looked at his empty glass. Livia watched the glance pass between them. It was quick, but service trained the eye to catch hunger, impatience, resentment, attraction, lies. People said waitresses were invisible. In truth, invisible people saw everything. "Mr. Bellandi," Livia said. Adrian did not look away from Marlo. "Yes. May I check the tray?" "Which tray?" "The espresso tray Marlo carried behind your chair." Marlo's face lost another shade. Adrian turned to her now. "Where is it?" "Side pantry," if he did not move it. "Show me." Enzo stepped forward. "Sir, I should clear it first." "No," Adrian said. Then he looked at Livia. "You first. Enzo behind you. No one touches anything unless she says." The sentence moved through the room like a second glass breaking. Livia did not let herself react. If she smiled now, Victor would call it manipulation. If she trembled, Marlo would call it fear. If she softened, the room would decide she had become grateful instead of competent. So she nodded once and walked to the pantry. The side pantry was narrow, bright, and smelling of coffee grounds, lemon oil, and the metallic chill of refrigeration. The espresso tray sat on the counter. 6 cups. 5 saucers. 1 folded service towel. A tiny glass bottle tucked behind the sugar caddy, too small for table use and too plain for bar inventory. Livia did not touch it. "There," she said. Enzo leaned in. "What is it?" "Bittering compound," Livia said. "Maybe bar stock, maybe not. The label is gone." Adrian stood in the doorway. "Would it harm me?" "I do not know. It may only be enough to make the drink taste foul." Marlo spoke from behind him. "So no harm was done." Livia turned. She did not raise her voice. "No harm was done because I hit his hand." The sentence ended the pantry. Adrian stepped aside and looked at Marlo. "Who gave you the bottle?" "I did not use it." "I asked who gave it to you." "It was in the pantry." "Livia?" She looked at the bottle again. "That pantry was reset after the lunch service. I checked it at 5. That bottle was not here." Marlo's eyes flicked to Victor again. Victor appeared in the pantry doorway with perfect timing and poor judgment. "This has gone far enough. Adrian, you cannot seriously allow staff gossip to derail a major donor announcement." Adrian's voice was almost gentle. "Victor." "Yes?" "You are standing in the service pantry." Victor looked around, realizing too late that he had entered the part of the restaurant where guests did not belong. "I followed out of concern." "For whom?" "For the integrity of the evening." Adrian looked at Livia. "Is that on the menu?" She should not have answered. "Not tonight." Enzo made a sound behind his hand. Victor's composure cracked. "This is charming, but absurd. A waitress has invented a conspiracy because she smelled something she cannot identify." Livia looked at him. "I identified the wrong glass before he raised it." "Because you were staring at him." "Everyone was staring at him." "Perhaps you wanted his attention." The room behind them seemed to recede. There it was, clean and ugly. The old move. If a woman in service noticed danger, she must have wanted to be noticed. If she spoke clearly, she must be performing. If she saved a man, she must be reaching for him. Livia felt heat rise in her face. She hated that. Not the anger. The visibility of it. Adrian saw the change. His voice lost all softness. "Careful." Victor smiled. "With respect, Adrian, surely you know the difference between loyalty and a woman making herself useful." Adrian moved. He did not strike Victor. He did not need to. He stepped closer, and Victor stepped back into the pantry shelf hard enough to rattle coffee cups. "Do not make the mistake of thinking usefulness is small," Adrian said. Livia looked at him then. Not because he had defended her. Men defended women for many reasons, and not all of them were clean. She looked because he had not called her innocent, beautiful, brave, or under his protection. He had called usefulness by its real weight. Victor swallowed. You are letting her steer this. Adrian's eyes stayed on him. No. She saw the road before I did. Act 3, the room without a toast. The Vesper room did not recover its elegance. That pleased Livia more than it should have. Elegance was useful only when it served the truth. Once a room had lied, elegance became a costume left on a chair. The long table still gleamed. The candles still burned. The amber digestive still caught the light in the decanters near the sideboard. But everyone had seen the stain on the white napkin, and the room could not pretend it was only dinner anymore. Adrian moved the investigation out of the pantry and back to the table because, as he said, if the embarrassment was meant to be public, the correction can be public too. Livia admired the sentence against her will. He sat again at the head of the table, but he did not touch another glass. The stained white napkin lay in the center on a silver tray, no longer hidden near his plate. The second napkin with the rim mark lay beside it. The tiny unlabeled bottle stood upright inside an empty water glass, where nobody could claim it had been lost. Marlowe stood near the service station. Victor sat 2 chairs down from Adrian, looking less like a donor and more like a man counting exits. The guests had been told they could leave if they wished. None did. People rarely left a room where a powerful man's humiliation might become someone else's. Start with the tray, Adrian said. Livia stood beside the sideboard. The espresso tray passed behind your chair during Mr. Salvi's introduction. Marlowe carried it, though espresso had not been requested yet. Marlowe's jaw clenched. I was preparing service. Espresso after dessert, she said. Not before the toast. Guests change their minds. Cups do not prepare themselves for guesses. Adrian's mouth moved slightly again. Livia decided not to see it. The digestive glasses were poured at the bar, she continued. Aldo carried the tray to the table. I watched him place the glass at 11 o'clock because Mr. Bellandi's water was on the right. Aldo, pale and earnest near the door, nodded quickly. After the introduction began, Livia said, Marlowe crossed behind Mr. Bellandi with the espresso tray. When he returned to the service station, the glass was at Mr. Bellandi's right hand. You did not see me touch it, Marlowe said. Correct. Then you cannot accuse me. I can place you in the only movement path. Victor sighed. This is not a courtroom. No, Livia said. Courtrooms have worse coffee. The assistant by the fireplace made a tiny sound and then stared at the floor. Adrian looked at Aldo. Did you move the glass? No, sir. Did anyone ask you to? No, sir. Did Marlowe ask you to leave the service line? Aldo hesitated. Marlowe snapped, answer carefully. Adrian's head turned. Marlowe shut his mouth. Aldo looked at Livia, then at Adrian. He told me to check the private elevator because a guest's driver was complaining. Was there a driver? Adrian asked. No, sir. When was this? Right before the toast. Adrian leaned back. The room felt the shift. Not rage. Something colder. A careful closing of doors. Livia, he said. Yes. What would you ask next? The question should not have warmed her. It did. She folded her hands behind her back. Who benefits from footage of you reacting badly, and who knew which glass you would lift? Victor smiled thinly. We all knew. It was a toast. No, she said. Guests lift what is nearest. Servers know what is nearest before guests do. Then blame your captain. I am looking at both of you. That was when Victor stopped smiling. Marlowe spoke too quickly. Mr. Salvi had nothing to do with service. Livia turned toward him. I did not say he did. Marlowe's face told the room what his mouth had tried to hide. Adrian looked at Victor. There it is, Enzo murmured. Victor placed his hands on the table. This is ridiculous. Marlowe has worked here for years. He is nervous because your people are intimidating him. My people, Adrian said. Yes. You mean Livia? Victor's nostrils flared. I mean your guards. But you said my people. Livia should not have liked that either. She had spent half her life in rooms where men placed her outside the word people until they needed coffee, witness, or blame. Adrian did not turn toward her when he included her. He did not make a performance of it. That made it harder to dismiss. Show me the camera, Adrian said. Victor's assistant clutched the tripod. The card is private foundation property. No one asked about the card. Enzo walked over and removed the camera with the careful patience of a man who had decided to be polite for sport. He set it on the table beside the stained napkin. Adrian looked at Livia. "May I?" The room noticed the may. So did she. "Yes," Livia said. "But play only the setup before the toast. If this becomes a spectacle, we are doing their work for them." Victor's eyes widened slightly. Adrian nodded once. "Only setup." Enzo connected the camera to a small monitor used for event slides. The image flickered, then filled with the view from the fireplace angle. The long table appeared from the side. The guests shifted. Victor stood. Adrian sat still. Aldo placed the digestive tray and stepped back. The glass was at 11 o'clock. Victor began speaking on screen. Then Marlo entered the frame with the espresso tray. He paused behind Adrian's chair for less than 2 seconds. His body blocked the glass, not dramatically, not enough for a casual viewer to care. When he moved away, the digestive sat at Adrian's right hand. The room saw it. Marlo closed his eyes. Victor said, "That proves Marlo moved a glass." Nothing more. Livia watched the screen. Rewind 5 seconds. Enzo did. Pause. The image froze with Marlo behind Adrian and Victor at the end of the table. Victor's left hand was below the table edge, hidden from most guests. "Zoom on Mr. Salvi's hand," Livia said. The assistant looked sick. Enzo zoomed. The image blurred, then sharpened enough to show Victor tapping 2 fingers against the base of his own glass. Once. Twice. Marlo moved. "A signal?" Adrian asked. Victor laughed sharply. "I tap when I speak." "Then why did he move only then?" Livia asked. Victor looked at her with real hatred now. There was a strange freedom in it. Contempt hidden behind charm made a room slippery. Hatred had edges. You could stand on edges if you were careful. "You have no idea what you are stepping into," Victor said. "A private dining room with a stained napkin," Livia said. "I am exactly where I work." Adrian's gaze came to her again. It stayed too long for safety. The assistant whispered, "Mr. Salvi." "Quiet," Victor snapped. Adrian looked at the assistant. "No. Speak." The young man looked as if he might fold in half. "I was told to keep the camera on Mr. Bellandi during the toast. If he reacted, I was supposed to keep recording." Victor stood. "You are fired." "Sit down," Adrian said. Victor remained standing. Adrian did not raise his voice. "Sit down before you discover how many meanings that sentence can have." Victor sat. Livia felt the air change again. The worst danger had passed, but the next danger was subtler. Adrian had the answer now. He could crush Victor and Marlo, by the footage, threaten the assistant, and turn the room back into proof of his power. People would call it justice because the right man won. But Livia had not hit his hand, so another man could own the table more elegantly. Adrian looked at her as if he knew she was thinking that. "What?" he asked. "Do not make this only punishment." Enzo stared at her. Victor laughed under his breath. Adrian's expression did not change. "No? No. He tried to make me look compromised." "Yes." Marlo assisted. "Yes. And you object to consequences?" "I object to easy ones." The silence returned. Livia took a breath. "If you drag them out by the collar, every guest leaves with the story they came to see." Adrian Bellandi was challenged and answered with force. "If you make them tell the room what they did, the story changes." Adrian leaned forward slightly. "To what?" He was challenged. A waitress stopped it. Then he listened long enough for the truth to embarrass itself. Enzo looked away, but Livia saw the corner of his mouth move. Adrian's eyes darkened in a way that had nothing to do with anger. "You want a confession?" "I want the room cleaned properly." "That may be the same thing." "Usually." For the first time, Adrian smiled. "Not much." "Not safely." "Enough." Act 4, teach me what you saw. They moved the guests to the lounge before the confession. Not because Livia suggested protecting Victor. She did not. She suggested removing the audience that had come hungry for a public collapse, because hunger made people remember incorrectly. Adrian agreed after looking at the camera, the stained napkin, and the assistant who had started shaking once Victor stopped pretending. The Vesper room became quieter with fewer people in it. Victor remained at the table. Marlo stood beside the sideboard. Enzo kept the camera. Adrian sat with a clean glass of water in front of him, untouched. Livia stood near the stained napkin because leaving it alone felt wrong, as if the room might lie again the moment she looked away. "You can sit," Adrian said. "I am working." "You just saved the room." "That is work." "Sit anyway." She looked at him. He corrected himself. Will you sit? The difference was not small. Livia pulled out the chair to his left, not beside him like an ally claimed by power, not across from him like an opponent, but near enough to see the table the way he saw it. The chair legs whispered over the carpet. Adrian waited until she sat before he spoke again. Teach me what you saw. That was the turn. Not the overturned glass. Not the evidence. Not the first moment he believed her. The real turn came when the most dangerous man in the room stopped asking who had threatened him and asked a waitress to teach him how not to miss the threat next time. Livia folded her hands on her lap to keep from touching the napkin. You watch faces first, she said. I do. That is why you missed the table. Enzo stood very still near the wall. Adrian did not look insulted. Go on. Power watches eyes, hands, doors, exits. Service watches placement. What moved, what should not be there, what guest stopped needing something after someone else crossed the room. He looked at the table. The glass. The glass, the napkin, the camera angle, the espresso tray before dessert, Marlowe warning me not to move. You trusted all of that before you trusted certainty. Certainty is slow. A raised glass is fast. The sentence settled between them. Adrian looked at his right hand. Livia had hit it hard enough that a small red mark had begun to show across one knuckle. She felt an unreasonable pinch of guilt. Your hand, she said. It will survive. I know. Then why are you looking at it like that? Because I hit a guest. No. You struck a decision. She looked up. His gaze held hers, steady and unreadable in the places where unreadable meant self-control, not emptiness. Guests can be hit by accident, he continued. Decisions are interrupted on purpose. Livia did not know what to do with that. Compliments were easy to reject when they were wrong. This was not a compliment. It was understanding. Do not romanticize it, she said. His mouth shifted. Too late. Heat moved into her face before she could stop it. Adrian saw. Of course he did. He did not smile wider, which she appreciated more than she wanted to. Mr. Bellandi, she said. Adrian. No. That startled him. Good. She nodded toward Victor and Marlowe. Not while I am working and they are listening. His eyes changed. After? After depends on whether you can get through the next 10 minutes without turning a service correction into a coronation. Enzo covered a cough. Adrian leaned back. You have strong views. Rooms need them. And men like me? More than rooms. The confession, when it came, was uglier for being small. Marlowe had not been promised a fortune or threatened with death. He had been promised promotion. Victor Salvi wanted footage of Adrian reacting badly to a treated glass during the foundation toast. Not dead. Not harmed. Just humiliated, coughing, angry, maybe knocking over a chair, maybe proving to donors and partners that the Bellandi name had become unstable. Marlowe would help, the footage would circulate privately before anyone denied anything, and Victor would become the calm alternative in rooms where money liked calm men. It was petty. It was also dangerous. Livia had learned that petty men often caused the most damage because they thought small cruelties did not count. Adrian listened without interruption. When Marlowe finished, Enzo looked ready to remove him from the room by a method that would damage the carpet. Adrian looked at Livia. Now, he asked. It took her a moment to understand. He was asking what came next. Not because he lacked options. Because he had too many. You need the staff paid for the full night, she said. Victor blinked. Marlowe looked confused. Enzo looked betrayed. Adrian's expression did not move. And? Aldo gets a written apology. So does every server Marlowe tried to involve. And? The assistant keeps his job if he wants it, but not under Victor. And Victor? She looked at Victor then, and he stared back with the cold fury of a man forced to hear his punishment discussed by a waitress. He should tell the donors the toast is cancelled because he compromised the room, Livia said. In his own words. On the same camera. Victor laughed. Never. Adrian turned toward him. Victor stopped laughing. You wanted footage, Adrian said. You will have it. This is coercion. No, Livia said. Coercion would be making you lie. We are inviting accuracy. Enzo made another sound. Adrian looked at him. Do you need water? No, sir. Then stop choking. Victor's confession was not dramatic. Men like him rarely confessed in language that matched the damage. He said he had authorized an inappropriate service intervention. He said he had intended to create a moment of reputational uncertainty. He said the compound was non-lethal, as if Livia might thank him for his restraint. Adrian let him finish. Then he stood. The room changed with him. You tried to make me perform weakness, Adrian said. You failed because a waitress understood strength better than you did. Victor's face hardened. Adrian continued, you will leave Chicago tonight. Not because I am chasing you. Because every door you wanted will know what you did before you reach it. You cannot erase me from every room, Victor said. No, Adrian said. You did that part yourself. Marlowe swallowed. And me? Adrian looked at Livia. She hated that she knew what he was asking. Hated more that she respected it. He leaves this room, she said. He does not touch staff schedules, tips, references, or records. He writes what happened. Then he finds work somewhere he cannot punish people for noticing things. Marlowe looked at Adrian, hoping for cruelty because cruelty at least would make Livia seem irrelevant. Adrian gave him none. Do that, he said. Marlowe's shoulders collapsed. After they were escorted out, the Vesper room finally became only a room again. The danger did not vanish, but the performance did. Livia gathered the stained napkins and placed them in a clean linen bag. Her hands felt too steady for what had happened. Adrian watched her tie the bag. What do I owe you? He asked. For the napkins? For the hand you hit. You owe me nothing. That is rarely true. It is tonight. He walked to the sideboard and picked up a black card from inside his jacket. Livia almost laughed. Do not. He paused. You do not know what I was going to offer. A card, protection, money, a job, maybe a driver if you are feeling dramatic. His mouth moved. Accurate. No. You refuse before hearing terms. I heard enough rooms like this to know terms often have furniture hidden in them. Furniture? Chairs men expect to occupy. Adrian looked at the card, then put it away. The gesture did something to her. Not the obedience. She did not want obedience. It was the speed with which he accepted that her no was information, not an obstacle. Then what can I give you? He asked. A clean room. You already made one. No. I interrupted a dirty one. He considered that. What does a clean room require? Pay your bill. Tip the staff. Send the guests home with truth instead of rumors. And next time you raise a glass, look at the table before you look at the enemy. Adrian's eyes did not leave hers. Next time, he said, will you be in the room? Livia's pulse betrayed her again. That depends. On? Whether you ask like a guest or a man trying to acquire a warning system. He looked down at the white napkin bag in her hands. Livia. This time she did not correct him. Will you join me after service for water in a clean glass, no toast, no audience, no guards at the table? The question was too specific to be accidental. She looked toward Enzo, who immediately found the ceiling fascinating. No guards at the table, she asked. Across the room. Farther. Near the door. Farther. In the hallway. Acceptable. Adrian's smile was small and devastating. Water? Water. No toast. Absolutely no toast. No card. If I see it, I will pour water on it. That seems fair. It did not feel fair. It felt like the beginning of trouble she might choose while fully informed. Act 5, The Clean Glass. Service after a scandal had a strange rhythm. The kitchen did not know whether to whisper or shout. Guests in the lounge accepted coffee they did not want because leaving meant admitting they had stayed for the wrong reason. Aldo wrote names with the seriousness of a man copying scripture. Enzo took statements from staff only after Livia made him stand at the far end of the table and use a normal voice. Adrian paid every staff member for the full night before dessert would have been served. Livia pretended not to notice the amount until she saw Aldo's face. Then she noticed. That is too much, she said. Adrian signed the payment authorization. You said pay the staff. I said pay them, not adopt them. Is overpaying a crime? In hospitality, it creates suspicion. I can live with suspicion. You seem well practiced. He glanced up, and that almost smile returned. By midnight, Victor's guests had left with a carefully worded explanation and enough truth to prevent the lie from becoming more attractive. The camera footage remained with Adrian's people, but the assistant kept a copy of his own confession in case Victor tried to bury him. Marlowe left through the service elevator with his jacket over his arm and his pride leaking behind him. Livia should have been relieved. Instead, she felt the delayed tremor of what she had done. It came when she was alone in the pantry, rinsing tongs she did not need to rinse. Her hands started shaking under the warm water. Not violently. Enough. She gripped the sink edge and let the water run. She had hit Adrian Bellandi's hand. In front of donors, bodyguards, a camera, and a room full of people who knew how quickly powerful men rewrote women's intentions. She had been right. Being right did not make the body forget the risk. Livia. Adrian stood at the pantry entrance. Not inside. He had stopped at the threshold. That mattered. I am fine, she said. I did not ask. You were about to. No. Then what? I was going to say your tongs have been clean for 2 minutes. She looked down. The tongs shone under the water. She turned off the tap. Observant. I had a good teacher. She dried her hands on a towel, annoyed that he had seen the tremor and more annoyed that he had not made it easier to reject him by saying something foolish. Do not be kind because I shook after, she said. No. No? I am not kind because you shook after. I am angry because you had to stay steady during. The sentence went through her defenses without permission. She folded the towel carefully. That is still kindness. Then I will survive the accusation. Will you? No one has ever accused me of it with evidence. She laughed once, unwillingly. His face changed at the sound. The pantry became too small. Livia stepped into the hall, and he moved back before she needed to ask. He gave space like a man learning a new language and determined not to mispronounce the first sentence. The room is almost cleared, he said. I know. Will you still sit with me? She could say no. That knowledge made yes possible. For water, she said. For water. They sat at the smallest table in the Vesper room, not the head table, not the one with the stain, not the one where cameras had been aimed. A two-top near the service station, half in shadow and half in candlelight. Enzo stood in the hallway with the door open, visible if needed and too far to hear. Livia approved the distance before she sat. Adrian brought the water himself. 2 clean glasses. 1 sealed bottle. 2 white napkins. He placed the bottle in the center of the table and sat without touching it. You are making a point, Livia said. Yes. Subtle. I was told to notice the table. She inspected the glasses because she could not help it. Clean rims. Correct placement. No scent but glass and chilled water. Acceptable, she said. High praise. Do not get used to it. He poured her glass first, then his own, and did not lift it. She noticed. You can drink. So can you. For some reason, that made her throat tighten. They drank together. No toast. No witnesses close enough to make the moment belong to anyone else. The water tasted like nothing, which was exactly right. How long have you known tables this way? He asked. Since I was 16. My mother cleaned hotel rooms, and I worked breakfast service before school. People think service means carrying things. It means reading what people will break if nobody corrects them. Who corrected you? Women with sore feet and no patience. Good teachers. The best. He turned his glass slowly by the base. You said fear pretends to be evidence. It does. In my world, fear keeps people alive. In mine too. But fear is a terrible witness. It says whatever the loudest man wants it to say. Adrian looked at the stained napkin bag on the sideboard. You were not afraid? I was terrified. His hand stopped on the glass. Livia met his eyes. I moved anyway. That is different. The air between them shifted. There were men who admired courage because they wanted to own it. Adrian looked at her as if he had been handed a weapon he did not deserve to touch. Do not put me on a pedestal, she said. I was considering an altar. Absolutely not. The corner of his mouth moved. Too much? Wildly. A chair? We are back to furniture. A clean glass, then. She looked at him across the small table, at the dangerous face softened by attention, the black suit still immaculate except for the faint mark on his cuff, the hand she had struck resting open beside the water. That may be acceptable. Good. For tonight. Understood. Do you understand often? Recently more than expected. She smiled before she could stop it. He saw, but this time she let him. The conversation moved slowly after that, as if both of them understood that rushing would turn the night into the kind of story other people wanted. He told her his father had taught him never to let another man choose his glass. His mother had taught him to taste soup before adding salt. He had followed one lesson for 20 years and neglected the other. Livia told him her first banquet captain could identify a cheating husband by where he placed his wedding ring during dessert. She told him about the hotel bartender who labeled every bottle in 3 languages because half the staff sent money home and did not need English to be competent. She told him about leaving a fiancé who hated that she came home knowing other people's moods better than his. Adrian listened. Not with the fake patience of a man waiting for his turn to confess something darker. He listened as if the details were the point. Your fiancé was a fool, he said. He was tired of being noticed. That is foolish. Sometimes noticing feels like judgment. With you, it feels like survival. The words were quiet. Livia stared into her water. Careful, she said. I am trying. No. You are being honest, which is more dangerous. For whom? Both of us, if you are any good at it. He leaned back, giving the sentence room. May I ask you something dangerous? You may ask. I may refuse. Good. She waited. If I come back to this room next week and raise a clean glass, would you be willing to be here? As staff? If that is what you choose. As what else? His eyes held hers. As the person I asked to sit after service. Livia's pulse answered before she did. That is not a small invitation. No. You barely know me. I know how you move when everyone wants you still. I know you tell the truth without decorating it. I know you are warm to frightened staff and merciless to lazy men. I know you hit hard enough to spill a glass but not hard enough to hurt my hand. I could have hurt your hand. But you noticed that too. She looked away, because the room had become too clear. Adrian continued, softer now. I know I wanted to punish everyone in this room until you made me want a clean one instead. That did it. Not because it was romantic, though it was. Because it was the correct thing. The hard thing. The thing she had been trying to explain to men for half her life while they mistook volume for strength. Adrian, she said. His name changed him. Not much. Enough. Yes? If you come back next week, you do not ask for my station. You do not buy my shift. You do not make Marlowe's replacement schedule me because you want to see me. No. You make a reservation like everyone else. Under what name? Yours. That name causes problems. Then behave until it causes fewer. He laughed softly. And after service? He asked. You ask. And if you say no? You drink your clean water and go home. Alone? Do not look so injured. You have survived worse. Not recently. That was too much. She should have looked away. She did not. Act 6, No Toast. 1 week later, Adrian Bellandi returned to the Vesper room with a reservation under his own name. He arrived without donors, without Victor Salvi's polished smile, without cameras, without a toast. Enzo came with him but sat in the lounge after Livia pointed to the chair she had chosen and said, There. Enzo looked at Adrian for help. Adrian opened his menu. Enzo went to the lounge. Progress, Livia decided, could be measured in insulted bodyguards. Adrian's table held 2 glasses, 2 folded white napkins, and a sealed bottle of still water. The setup had not been ordered by him. Livia had placed it herself, partly because she wanted the room correct and partly because she wanted to see whether he would notice. He did. His eyes went first to the napkins, then the bottle, then her. Clean room, he asked. Cleaner. What remains? You still look at exits before menus. That may be permanent. I did not say it was wrong. I said it remains. He sat. And you? I still look at glass rims before faces. Is that permanent? Likely. Then we are both charming. That is not the word I would use. You wound me. You will survive dinner. She said it lightly, but dinner with Adrian was not light. It was careful in a way that made care feel alive. He did not order for her when she joined him after service. He did not ask whether she was sure she wanted to sit in the public dining room. He did not hide that he wanted to look at her, and he did not make his wanting her problem. The staff pretended not to watch. They were terrible at it. Aldo nearly walked into the wine cabinet. The new banquet captain, a woman named Serena with silver hair and a spine like a carving knife, gave Livia a look that said she approved professionally but wanted details personally. Enzo, from the lounge, kept reading the same page of a newspaper upside down. Your people are subtle, Livia said. They are not my people tonight. No? They are frightened restaurant staff watching their banquet lead sit with a dangerous man. And what are you? Adrian looked at his clean glass. A man trying not to make the danger the most interesting thing about him. Livia had no immediate defense against that answer. So she ate bread. He smiled like he knew exactly what she was doing, which annoyed her because he was right. After dinner, he walked her to the side entrance because rain had started again, gentle against the alley awning. Enzo waited by the car at the curb, far enough to give them privacy and close enough to keep his nerves manageable. Adrian stopped beneath the awning. May I ask something? You have asked many things. This one is not about dinner. Her heart changed pace. Ask. May I kiss you? There was no audience. No stained napkin. No threatened toast. No room waiting to see whether the Mafia Boss got what he wanted. Only rain, an alley light, and a man who had learned that asking was not weakness if the answer could be no. Livia looked at his mouth, then his eyes. Yes, she said. He touched her cheek with the hand she had struck a week earlier. The mark was gone. The memory was not. His kiss was careful at first, which she appreciated for 3 seconds and then corrected by catching the front of his coat and pulling him closer. Adrian made a low sound against her mouth, half surprise, half surrender, and Livia smiled because powerful men were often most honest when they lost control of the script. He did not push. He did not claim. He waited for what she chose next. So she chose more. When they separated, the rain had made tiny silver marks on the shoulders of his black coat. You taste like coffee, he said. You taste like you checked the glass first. I did. Good. His thumb brushed her cheek once. Will you have dinner with me somewhere that is not your workplace? No private room. No private room. No toast. Never again unless you approve the glass. No guards at the table. Enzo will sulk in another county. No black card. Cash, Adrian. A normal card. She laughed, and his face softened with such open satisfaction that she almost kissed him again just to see it deepen. One dinner, she said. One dinner. I can cancel. Yes. I can leave. Yes. I can hit your hand if you pick up the wrong glass. I am counting on it. That answer should not have been romantic. It was. 3 months later, the stained white napkin remained folded in a sealed frame beneath the service counter, not on display for guests, not hidden in shame. Serena called it the teaching napkin. Aldo called it the reason he triple-checked camera angles. Enzo called it evidence that waitresses should be treated as a security department, which Livia told him was both flattering and annoying. Adrian came to the Vesper room on Thursdays. Not every Thursday. He was not a safe man with a simple life, and Livia did not pretend otherwise. Sometimes he missed a reservation because business kept him in rooms where clean glasses were the least dangerous thing present. Sometimes she worked late and left him a note on a white napkin that said, "Check the table yourself." He always did. When he came, he sat where she placed him. That was their private joke and, in a way neither of them said too often, their private promise. He let her choose the table because she saw rooms differently. She let him sit in them because he had learned not to confuse her sight with service he could buy. On the first Thursday of October, he arrived after closing. The dining room had been reset for breakfast service. Chairs stood upside down on a few tables near the bar. The chandeliers had been dimmed. Rain moved down the windows in long quiet lines. Livia was counting linen when the side door opened and Adrian stepped in with no overcoat, no entourage in the room, and 2 paper cups from the all-night coffee stand 2 blocks away. That better not be a toast, she said. Coffee. Coffee can be used recklessly. I brought lids. Bare minimum. He placed 1 cup beside her and waited while she checked the lid, the rim, the sleeve, and his face. He did not look offended. He looked, if anything, pleased to be inspected by someone who loved him accurately. Love had not been declared dramatically. It had happened in corrections. In clean glasses, asked questions, paid staff, open doors, and nights when he sat in a public dining room because she refused to be courted in shadows. It happened when he called ahead if he would miss dinner, not because she demanded it, but because absence without explanation had been a language both of them knew too well. It happened when she stopped saying Mr. Bellandi, except at work when he enjoyed it more than he deserved. What do you want? She asked. You always assume I want something. You brought coffee after midnight to a woman counting napkins. Fair. He reached into his jacket. She lifted one eyebrow. He paused. Not a card. Continue. He removed a folded white napkin. Livia stared at it. It was from the Vesper room, clean, pressed, and marked only by 1 line written in Adrian's neat black handwriting. No toast. No audience. Just dinner, if you choose. She looked up. You wrote on my linen. I did. Serena will charge you. She already did. Smart woman. Terrifying. Livia unfolded the napkin fully. Inside was a reservation card for a small diner near the lake, the kind of place with vinyl booths, pie in a glass case, and no private rooms worth reserving. 2 seats. Corner booth. No special service. No guards at the table. Livia read it twice. You made a reservation like everyone else. I am improving. And if I say no? I drink coffee and help count napkins until you throw me out. And if I say yes? His eyes warmed. Then I will be very careful not to look triumphant. She laughed softly. He failed at not looking triumphant. Livia set the clean napkin beside the sealed frame beneath the counter. Stained white linen and clean white linen, the before and after of a room that had taught them both something neither power nor service could learn alone. Then she took the coffee he had brought and lifted it slightly. Adrian's eyes sharpened with amusement. I thought no toast. It is not a toast. What is it? A test. Of whether you noticed I checked both cups already. His smile came slowly. I noticed. Good. She drank first. Then he did. No speech. No audience. No performance. Just two people in a clean room, with rain at the windows and a white napkin between them, learning that trust was not the absence of danger. Trust was the person who saw the wrong glass before you lifted it and stayed long enough to teach you how to see it too.